Hello, this is Rachel Probst from A Little Bit of Light, and with my guest speaker here, Mr. Krebsbach, the counselor. Hi,
Hello, it's nice to be here.
it's nice to be here with you. Thank you for coming and being able to answer some questions onto this week's topic, which is kind of undiagnosed mental illnesses like anxiety or depression. Um, and how we can go about that with people who might not want to talk about it or really want to speak out about it, how it can help more people.
Okay, sounds good.
Right. So for my first question I have for you is like, what are the signs or like symptoms of anxiety that typically get ignored in a teen? And like it could be something really small that we don't really see as a symptom, but it could definitely be one.
Right. Well, I think the usual stereotype with anxiety is that when kids suffer anxiety, that it's easy to see by them panicking or shaking or freaking out, and it's not always that case. I mean, that's when they're having a panic attack. They could still be dealing with anxiety issues that aren't so obvious. Sometimes when they show some of the things that can be easily overlooked are when the student starts to show an obsession towards something, like I have to get this done and I can't stop working on it. Or it could even be something where they're continuously avoiding a task that they know that needs to get done because it starts to make them anxious and they just kind of flee from completing that task. Over planning, being restless, not getting a lot of sleep, um, or if their health starts to deteriorate a little bit. All these could be signs of anxiety that get overlooked because a lot of times, oh, it's like, oh, I didn't have time to take a shower today. Okay, no big deal. It happens to everybody. But when you start to notice that they haven't been showering for a while, that can be something that is an issue that's tied into anxiety. So a lot of things can be overlooked, and it's those small things that you kind of got to look for before somebody gets to the point of where they're having a panic attack.
Right. And so, are there, because those are a lot of symptoms for other mental illnesses, do you think you can like elaborate on maybe other mental illnesses that have those same symptoms?
Um, well, I'm by no means an expert in all the symptoms of the wide variety of mental health issues that are out there, but definitely the things I mentioned could also be signs of depression. They could be signs of students who are on the track, kind of tied in with depression, but also on the track to maybe self-harming themselves, because they're spiraling to a point to where they're not sure where they're going to end up. And if they're not asking for help, or they're not getting for help, or if they're not getting that help that they need, it could easily escalate very quickly into severe depression or suicidal thoughts. So, um, which are also tied into many different mental health um, diagnoses.
Thank you. So if a teenager who isn't diagnosed with anxiety or don't know if they do have anxiety, do you have any like suggestions on what might help a person kind of stop spiraling down the rabbit hole?
Well, yeah, the first thing is for a student or anybody to really acknowledge that there's something that they're dealing with, or something that they're avoiding, um, or that there's a problem. And usually the student or the person would probably feel like this isn't normal for me. So it's very important to self knowledge that there's something off with me. That would be the very first step. And then the second step is usually a hard one, is to ask for help or to find someone that they're comfortable with. Obviously, the first go-to person people would be, talk to your parents. But we always assume that, or sometimes it's natural to assume that students and parents have a good relationship, and that the parents would be the first ones to contact to get help. And in some cases that works out great, but there's also students out there that maybe their parents are also causing the anxiety, or they're not close to their parents. So it's important to maybe reach out to someone else that they're comfortable with, whether that be a counselor or a teacher or a friend, to at least start having that conversation about, I'm having problems with this, or there's something not right with the way I know myself, and I want to get help. So it's reaching out for help and hoping that that will transgress into getting the help that they need from the person or organization that they need.
Right. Right. Thank you.
All right.
So maybe if the parents are involved and they are maybe like refusing help for their child, how could a child go and
Yeah, if you know, we do have that where students do share things with their parents, and the parents are kind of like, oh, they're just a teenager, they're just going through a phase. That's when I would say that the student then needs to use the school. You know, they need to reach out to their counselor or the Safe Schools advocate or the school nurse and share what they're going through with them. And then it would be on that staff member or a variety of staff members to maybe contact the parents and just maybe let them know the seriousness of the issue and provide them with some resources, and to encourage them not to take lightly what their students or what their child is going through, and to get them help. In the least, take your student or your daughter or your son to the doctor and let them share with what they're going through and experiencing with the doctor, and let the doctor make an official assessment. And if the doctor says there's nothing wrong, then fine. But if the doctor says, well, I think there's a little bit of this or a little bit of that going on, and getting extra help, or in some cases taking medication to help with the issue, um, whatever it takes. But if the parents are not taking the student seriously, then the student should reach out to those trusted members at school or in their church.
yeah, any place that
Yeah,
a trusted adult.
yeah, any place they're comfortable with a trusted adult. That could even be another that could be grandma, that could be grandpa, that could be an uncle. Yeah.
Right. Right. So if if the teen is more so scared of the results, rather like they think that there's something wrong, but a doctor tells them that there isn't, but they themselves still feel like there's something wrong, is there anything that you can like help with that and like maybe cope in a way?
Well, they're more than welcome to say, for example, here at Northwest, um, share that with their counselor, which in this case, let's say it's me, and I would be available to talk to them at length on a regular basis to see if I could help them a little bit, kind of give them some coping skills. I usually work in tandem with the Safe Schools advocate, who has a little bit more time because her main um, responsibility here is to talk to students that are dealing with signs of depression or anxiety or suicidal thoughts. Um, so she's a little bit more trained in that area and has a little bit more time to talk to the student at length and more in depth than I do. But we all work as a team, so the student can also talk to me, can also talk to Ms. Gaboyan, who is the Safe Schools advocate, and even to the school nurse. There's not just it's not a rule that the student only has to speak to one person specifically. We work as a team, and as long as the student is comfortable with approaching multiple adults, then the more contact, the better.
That's great. I'm so happy that, you've created such a safe zone for teenagers because, there's a big majority who have trouble talking about their problems, excuse me, talking about their problems and, going through like troublesome times. And so being able to talk to somebody like you or Miss Gaboyan, it's going to be a lot easier for people to hopefully speak out more and have a better experience trying to talk about their problems.
Right.
Um,
And we,
right now, oh,
no,
sorry.
I was just saying we have a multitude of resources for families as well. Families that are contacting us, or that we could provide students with resources in organizations outside the school, that would also be able to help them.
Perfect. So right now we're going to take a short break and we will get back to this amazing conversation with Mr. Krebsbach, and um, we will see you guys in a second. Hi, welcome back. So for this part, I kind of wanted to make it a little more personal with, you and I. So I wanted to talk about like my problems. I'm definitely not a perfect person, and I kind of chose this topic to talk about because it's kind of related to me. Thankfully, I have sought help, and so my parents are definitely on board and helping me. But I wanted to know more on like panic attacks and how I can help myself when I'm in the middle of one. And say like maybe I'm alone and I can't talk to somebody or handle something on my own. How should I handle a panic attack or an anxiety attack of the sort?
Well, I haven't been around too many people that have actually had one. We did have one in this counseling department, and Miss Lear came back and I observed her helping the student just kind of breathe and focusing, just had her focus on her finger and just say, take one breath at a time. And it was basically getting the student to calm down and focus on her breathing rather than focusing on the fact that she was having a panic attack. So I think that was valuable for me in seeing that and observing that occur. And I could see the wisdom in the way she was handling by being calm herself and then just trying to, getting right up in the, I mean, this happened before COVID. So, but getting right up in the student's face, kind of not like too close, but just saying, okay, just breathe with me and trying to get them on the same rhythm, which you could still do with masks on, but I think it helped the student to visualize Miss Lear actually, breathing in and breathing out. And eventually the student was able to come down from that panic attack. So, um, you know, I, it's definitely something that is a tandem thing. I mean, you really can't come down from it on your own in that instance. Um, so you definitely would want to try to find help, and hopefully you'll find help with someone that would be able to help bring you down from that attack.
Right. I've tried to like maybe seek out friends, like go on a phone call. Like most trusted friends, I have about two that I trust the most that I can talk to during a panic attack, or at least try to talk to. Um,
And I think there's different levels of anxiety attacks. I think that one was probably kind of a worst case where it's actually affecting the breathing. But you can have a panic attack by being stressed and looking around. Oh my gosh, where do I start? I've got so much homework. I'm freaking out. But you're freaking out, but your breathing's fine. But where you get somebody that's like, and they're starting to struggle with the breathing, that's a little bit more severe. So um, I think with the lesser ones, that would work great. It's like, God, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how to start. I'm going to call my friend. and just try to run things by her and see maybe what she's doing, or maybe just her voice and talking to her will calm me down and allow me a little bit of a break to be refocused. So it really depends on the severity of the attack.
Yeah, I've heard of a breathing mechanism. I can't place the name right now. I think it's like 4 by 4 by 4 or 4 by 8 by 4, where you breathe in for 4 seconds and then you hold it for 8 and then you breathe out for 4 seconds. But I heard that that was very helpful with the more severe kind of anxiety attacks.
Yeah, and there's there's a variety of ways that people can learn to, they need to learn what works for them. Some people it's just like, okay, I'm going to close my eyes and count backwards from 10, 10, 9, 8, and until you get down to 1. So you're focusing on what you're doing and your task, and it just kind of takes your mind off why you had the attack in the first place. Um, so there's a variety of, of breathing exercises or counting exercises, or sometimes just even saying certain words over again.
Excuse me.
Yeah, bless you.
Oh, thank you.
So it all depends on what works for different people and what coping skills they've been shown. But I think there's a variety of out there to be learned to determine what works best for each individual.
Yeah, in fact, I encourage trying to find that one thing that'll help because I've definitely had my fair share of attacks, and I always try to do what other people kind of like tell me to do, and it was a trial and error kind of thing to um, pick the right thing that would make the quickest end to that attack.
I
So
think it. Oh, go ahead. I thought
uh,
you. Well, I was
I
just going to say.
think
I think
it
it's.
is important.
Yeah, I was going to say. I think it's also important to mention that when students approach us, and if they're just talking about anxiety attacks in general, and how do I cope with that, and sharing what makes them anxious, a lot of the information that is covered under that would remain confidential. It's not like we have to call the parents on every single little thing that's discussed. If they say the anxiety is caused because my parents hurting me or the situation at home is bad, it would depend on those situations if the student is safe or not, if we would break confidentiality. But just to talk about general anxiety and coping skills, and these things make me anxious, or let's say, for example, my parents are going through a divorce. I'm really anxious about that and the work I'm having to do and getting behind in work and being stressed out. Um, that's all something that can remain confidential. As long as there's not a safety issue involved, things remain confidential.
Right. I know there's like some aspects that where you have to break confidentiality,
Yeah.
but I'm also like really grateful, and I'm sure many other students that you do keep things confidential within your conversations because it can be really hard for a student to actually talk about things. And I know that it was really hard for me when I had first ever gone to a counseling session with my school. And so I'm really glad that there's only a little bit that you have to break confidentiality about because it feels more safer that way.
Yeah. Well, it's the safety of the students is paramount, and if we happen to find out that they're being abused, or if they intend to hurt somebody, or if they're hurting themselves, and if they're doing something to hurt themselves like cutting or taking drugs, obviously that's not conducive to getting them into a better spot mentally or emotionally. So that's the main goal, is keeping the students safe, and then the second goal would be to get them to a place where they're more happy with their situation, that they don't need those actions to help them get through what they're going through.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Krebsbach, for joining and guest speaking. It was really important that you were here today to help me talk about, undiagnosed anxiety and what to do and how to handle things. So I'm really grateful that you were here today, and I'm sure the viewers are also really grateful too. Hopefully this helped some people out. I know it helped me out, so I can, think more thoroughly on things. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome. It was my pleasure to attend.